On this episode of Throwdown,
Give it up for the Kentucky Hot Brown.
it's a race to
Good
the
morning.
finish with brothers Joe and John Castro in Louisville, Kentucky.
Food Network.
Shh!
Bobby's on!
Of course he is.
I thought I made my perfectly clear. Now go sit down.
Little do they know that they've been set up
What's going on?
for a hot brown showdown.
Bobby's so talented, he has his own show. It's called Throwdown with Bobby Flay, where other chefs come on and try to outcook him. Good luck. No one beats my Bobby.
My mission to find the best
Well,
of the best.
if you need me, I'll be over here.
I like it nice and quiet so I can concentrate on my show. That means no noise and no talking.
I might even lose. It's anybody's game. It's the ultimate throwdown. I surprised brothers Joe and
I'm
John
writing on
Castro
the
with a
paper.
hot brown throwdown. The dish
Was
is a
that too much
Kentucky
noise?
Derby tradition, and I'm not sure how the locals feel about a New Yorker stepping in to make it.
You think that squirrel's gonna beat Bobby? Think again. Look at that. Don't you think Bobby's souffle is lighter and fluffier? Oh,
Hey, I'm up.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I said no talking.
But you just asked me.
Let the race begin. We start with the cheese sauce.
Oh, he's actually using a paring knife to cut tenderloin? And you call yourself a chef? It's something you do. You picked the wrong knife too.
A paring knife?
What is it with you the talking? I'm trying to watch my show.
But you're the one that's...
Sauce is made with heavy cream, so it's gonna be ultra rich. But my sauce is in trouble. We left one.
No. What are you doing? He's mixing eggs almost as bad as you. See? He cooks just like you. He learned from a monkey too. But see how Bobby do it? That's the right way. Not like you getting all the eggshells inside your bowl.
I wasn't that bad.
How am I supposed to watch my show with all this noise?
That's it.
I see how they want to play it, but I'm still confident in my hot brown.
Do I look like I'm under pressure right now?
Wait, what happened to my TV? The power went out. Wait, no. What happened?
Oh no. Did that happen again?
You need to fix it. I'm missing my show.
We've been having that problem a lot lately. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do.
Fine. I'll go and read instead. Bobby just came out with a new cookbook.
Okay. That is so much better.
Quiet! How am I supposed to read with all this noise?
Hey, boys and girls, and welcome to week number 3 of our series, You First. We're so glad you're here at Vertical Kids Clubhouse, the only clubhouse where you can have fun learning about God and His Word. And we're excited to see you again. Yes, glad to be in your home and be where you are in your space. And so in week 3, we're going to talk about this idea. Being last is a blast. Being last is a blast. I know that sounds like backwards, like who wants to be last? Being last isn't fun. Being first is fun, right? But that's not always the way God sees it. In fact, Jesus told this really, really cool story in Luke chapter 14 about how being last is a blast. And he said this, there was a guy and he was invited to a wedding. And of course, after a wedding, there's this big party and everybody goes and they choose seats, right? So this guy who was kind of an important dude walked into the party. And he looked around at the seats and he chose the best seat. And he went and he sat there. And he's like, yep, everybody's going to know I'm important. Like we learned last week, I'm number one, right? That's what he's thinking. Everybody's going to know how big a deal I am. But then the host, the owner of the event, comes over and he taps him on the shoulder and says, excuse me, sir, but somebody who's more important than you, a bigger deal than you, more famous than you has arrived. And they need your seat. Well, the man kind of puts his head down and sadly gets up and gives his seat to this other guy. And then he turns around and looks and sees, where am I going to sit? And he suddenly realizes that all the good seats are filled And the only seats that are available are the ones way, way, way in the back. The least seats, the most unimportant seats, the one where no one will ever see you and no one will ever know you're there. And so sadly he walks his way to the back and sits down. And in Luke chapter 14, verse 11, Jesus said these words. He said, all who make themselves great, notice, who make themselves great, will be made humble. But those who make themselves humble, God will make great. You see, to be humble means this. It means to choose to honor others and put them first over yourself. It's putting them first and you last, so that God will be able to lift you up. God will be able to walk through your life. God will be seen in you, and God will make you great. The Bible talks about Jesus doing this exact same thing. In Philippians chapter 2, verses 5 through 8, it says this, that Jesus came to this earth. He was God. He came to this earth and left all of his godness aside. He left it in heaven, and he came low, 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 low. In fact, he died the lowest death you can die. He died a death on the cross. Well, why, Pastor Jeff? Why would he do that? Well, thank you for asking. I'm glad you did. He did that so that he could be lifted up and everybody else could be lifted up, so that God could make you great and God could make me great and God could make Jesus great by this one fact. Jesus went low so everybody else could be lifted up. And the Bible has a whole lot to say about this, about putting ourselves last so that others can be first. You see, when you do that, when you put yourself last and others first, then God can use you and God can make you great. You see, if you go through your life lifting yourself up, tooting your own horn, telling people how great you are, how important you are, how wonderful you are, letting everybody know you're there when you walk into a room and just letting everybody think you're the most amazing thing, you can only go as high as you. That's as high as you can go. Whatever you have for your abilities and within yourself, that's as high as you can go. But you know what? When you choose to put yourself low and put everybody else first, then God can reach down and make you great. He can bring you up. He can lift you up. And when he lifts you up, guess what? It's not as high as you can go now. It's as high as God can go. Well, how high can God go? God's height is endless. His power is limitless. His ability is limitless. When you humble yourself and go low, God can lift you up to the highest of highs, way farther than you could ever do it on your own. So I think it really makes a lot of sense for us to let God be in first place and for us to put other people in first place so that we can go low, so that God can lift us up. And there are two really cool stories in the Bible about people doing just this. First is this guy Joseph, who is one of 12 kids. He's the youngest of 12 kids, actually. And his daddy treats him as his favorite, which is kind of hard because that means he gets special treatment. And his other brothers don't like him at all. They're mad at him. So they sell him into slavery. And he goes to a country called Egypt, which is the most powerful nation in the world. And there in Egypt, not only is he a slave, but he ends up in prison. And not just prison, but the lowest prison. But when he's there, he realizes that he needs to humble himself and put everybody else first. And he begins to help this person here and that person there. And as he helps them, those guys slowly but surely get out of jail. And one day, one of them comes in contact with the king, the Pharaoh of Egypt, the most powerful man in the world. And he tells the Pharaoh about Joseph and how smart he is. And Joseph goes from being the lowest of low, and in one day, he becomes the second most powerful man in the most powerful country in the world. Well, how did that happen? Because Joseph put everybody else first and himself last. And then God supernaturally lifted Joseph up. Then there's the story of Esther. She's also a slave girl. She's in the country of Babylon. She lives with her uncle Mordecai. And basically what happens with Esther is she ends up through a contest by being chosen to be like a beauty contest, to being chosen to be the queen of the nation of Babylon. But there's a problem. She's a Jew, and that's not a problem. The problem is that the king has decided that all the Jewish people are going to be killed. Now, He doesn't know Esther's a Jew. He doesn't know his wife's a Jew. And there's nothing wrong with that again, but they're all going to be killed. So Esther has to make this really important decision. Am I going to risk my position? Am I going to risk my life to tell the king not to hurt my people and watch them die? Or am I going to risk my life so that they won't die? Or am I going to keep silent and watch them all die? Am I going to put me first and watch all my people die, including my uncle? Or am I going to open my mouth, risk my life, risk my position, all my power, all my stuff, that hopefully my people will be saved? And of course, God leads Esther, and Esther does the right thing. She tells the king, and all the Jewish people are saved, and she's saved too. You see, she went low. She put everybody else first, and God lifted her up. And to kind of make this clear to you, this idea of you going last so everybody else can go first, you remember the game Angry Birds? There's a slingshot, right? And what do you use a slingshot for? You put something in the slingshot, you pull it way back, and it shoots it forward. Let's just say here that this ball I have is your life, okay? And you want to obey God. You want to do things God's way. You want to put others first so you will be last so God can blast you forward. Well, we're going to put you inside the slingshot here, okay? Make sure I get it because a lot of power is going to be released. And then I'm going to pull this back and back and back. And you know, the farther back you go, the more power you get. Now you're getting farther and farther away, and others are first, that's for sure, but you're getting more and more power. And then when you let God work in your life and you let God do it because you obeyed him and he takes over, then, oh my, you get blasted way, way far ahead of everybody else. You go ahead, not ahead of other people, but God blasts you forward because you're no longer doing it on your power. You're no longer doing it on your ability. You're doing it on God's. And it's a whole lot more fun to do it that way. Wow, isn't that cool? You see, the more you put other people first, the more that God can blast you forward. When you go backward, like we did with the slingshot, God can blast you forward. God's power can work in your life. You see, if you allow God to release you and let you go because you went backward so others can go first, then like Joseph and like Esther, he will shoot you way, way, way out ahead. And the more you put others first and yourself last, the bigger the blast, the bigger God's power can be in your life. So this week I want you to think about this. What are ways that I can help other people go first? How can I put them first and me last? Not so I can be shot out ahead of them, not so I can be a big deal. No. Just so they can genuinely be happy. See, the best part about you being a blast and going last is you get to see other people happy. You get to see them joyful because they enjoy life and they feel good. And then you get the joy and the happiness of watching them be happy. That's cool. So this week, what could you do? Maybe you could give up your seat at the lunch table for somebody else. Maybe you could put somebody else ahead of you in line. Maybe you could give up time on your video game or something like that with your brother or sister. Maybe here at church, you could let somebody else go ahead of you to the prize booth. What's that look like in your life? Where's a space where you have a chance to be first, but you can choose to be last so that life is a blast? I want you to really think about it this week and make a game of it. Decide this week, I'm going to try to see how many times I can put others first in my life this week. I promise you, if you do that, you'll have a great week. God will shoot you forward. And you know what? You'll enjoy every minute of it because being last is a blast. So remember, our big answer this week is this. Choosing to be last is a blast because others have fun and you have fun watching them do it. So hey, as we always say, stay safe, be well. We love you. Jesus loves you most of all. See you next time.